I say it gives me my fix. What do I need to do? I need to compete. I need to get a little bit of sense of that battle. That's just, I just say my nervous system was trained for that, and I don't want to completely lose it. But I'm trying to find a better activity that gives me resistance and endurance training. The amount of endurance that it takes to grapple, it was astounding to me when I first got on that mat and went, geez, this has to be one of the hardest workouts you could ever do. I mean, you can get done with grappling and it could feel like you've done 10,000 curls that day just because you had to try and connect yourself to another person. And in jiu-jitsu, they call it, you got to get sticky and create that close contact. So for me, it's like 3 or 4 times a week, I get to go spar. If you spar for 30 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week, I guarantee you got the elevated heart rate you needed. You burn the calories that you should, and you're definitely getting some mobility as well with some of the positions you're in. But if you're getting on the ground, and that's one of the most phenomenal things for me about doing jiu-jitsu is, man, I got to get my old ass on the ground. And I got to move around on that ground. And I always say I got to do this as long as I can because it keeps me young. If I can come roll and flip and grapple with guys in their 20s for the next 10 to 15 years, I think that that's probably a pretty good workout, and I'll take it.
And I would imagine a good mood elevator for a lot of what, some of the guys, to your point, are lacking after the career is over, just coming out of there with a little sense of accomplishment. So,
yeah. And you got that hurdle, right? It was a big challenge for me to go back to being the worst athlete in the room.
Yeah.
That was something I hadn't experienced since I was maybe 12 years old. And here I am trying to learn how to move on my back or how to wrestle. And that's its own learning curve. But once you push through that and you start to develop that mastery, it becomes a pretty exciting thing because, now you start to learn the intricacies of the sport, and then you get camaraderie back, right? And that's another thing that people miss when you're a team sport guy is, man, where do I go to feel part of a group? But me, man, I go over there, I hang out with a bunch of the other 40 crazy people that go fight people 3 or 4 times a week. And it gives me that I would probably be missing a lot otherwise.
Well, I know Tony thinks next to boxing, I guess wrestling might be the second hardest, or the grappling sports, right, Tony?
I do. Just the only reason why, and I do a lot of it. I still do just, again, getting punched in the head repetitively is just not that good for you. So it's where I differentiate the boxing. I know a lot of the jiu-jitsu guys and wrestlers get really upset about that. We're talking about it today, right? Being hit in the head isn't all that good for you. So that's what just differentiates boxing when it's the ultimate goal. Even in the NFL, the head contact is there, particularly on the line, but they try to avoid it today, right? They do the best they can. In boxing, it's the ultimate goal. So I do think it differentiates it. Peripherally, yeah, you get a lot of fatigue in jiu-jitsu, but the sheer damage to the old noggin is pretty bad in the boxing sport.
No, I mean, we got to be honest, right? Punch drunk CTE, really the lineage of understanding that getting hit in the head is not good. And I think it's also something that we always have to make clear anytime we talk about it. You get one brain, treat it like you only get one. You can beat it up in a way that creates a lot of dysfunction for you in life. And boxing was the first sport to really get attention for that. Yeah. But I think that there's less people in boxing on the ancillary parts, right? Yep. It's like it's not a huge outcry to change boxing because those are some old school burly dudes in there, and they're like, this is just kind of what we do. But make no mistake about it, boxing is probably the most dangerous sport for head trauma. I mean, we see stories of people dying on the spot. Definitely. And that makes the risks in boxing unique.
Go on. Just a quick question on that. We know then, Julius, and from your work, Harvard, and what we're learning, is there a minimum, I guess, threshold or frequency or years? Because the depression is heavily correlated, correct, to long-term concussion. It's very hard to mitigate the effects, or it can often even lead to a clinical depression. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, there's just so many symptoms, right, that all get conflated, right? You look at the DSM criteria for anxiety and depression, right? They got similar symptoms. You look at depression and anxiety in CTE, and they've really started to try and define symptoms in living people. conflated. So it's really hard to be able to determine, how is one impacting the other, and those models, that's another level of nerd. I'm sure we'll get into sometime over some of the research, but it's going to be so important for a person to do the basic healthy things if they want to do the most they can to prevent negative effects from whatever sport they played. It comes down to the basics, right? Get some exercise, sleep, try and eat healthy, manage your social relationships, keep your stress low, and don't abuse substances. And if you find yourself feeling off, just please talk to somebody.
Yep.
Worst thing that can happen is you can sit down in front of a clinician and they can say, you're all good, man, you're normal. It's like, just go get that clarity. There's sometimes, and there's groups of people saying, should we be telling these contact sports athletes that CTE is their future? What's that doing for their current functioning? Is that going to make them feel hopeless and powerless to affect positive change in their health? Maybe it is. So maybe we should tell people and encourage them to do the right things behaviorally that can help them down the road.